Well, good morning. It is really cold. So I'm at home and I have a chance to speak with you here. So I'm going to share a few simple but very, very important lessons. And so I have a student, former student, we'll call it. A couple years he's been gone. This student had an incident which made him tell me this. He said, I really don't do training anymore, and because I had a life altering moment, and what had happened to him was he was involved in a self-defense situation. He responded, what he felt like was appropriately defended himself. And while the effect of the training, the skills, the tools were perfect, worked in every way, designed. In other words, he didn't get a scratch. He then told me that he would have rather taken a beating. Well, first of all, he would have rather just did everything he could to avoid the confrontation altogether, every aspect of it. The escalating scale that it took, all of that could have been avoided, and he understood that later on. The other thing he said is that he would have rather been a coward and submitted to that person's verbal and physical violence, application of force, taken a beating, maybe even rather been killed than what he went through. And that shocked me, because I've known this guy 20-ish years. Maybe not quite 20, but 20-ish, maybe more than 20. Trained with me for a long time. Probably was a black belt when I met him, when he started training with me, and probably, exceeded that level, at least in my estimation. After he trained with me, he probably exceeded that. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because, a lot of what I'm seeing from people on Facebook and everywhere, really, YouTube, Facebook, advertisements for training, is that here is the point of the event. Here are all the things that we use to win that engagement. This side of it, well, we don't deal with that. That's not part of the training. Even your own personal, how to handle your own emotions in a situation, we don't discuss or talk about that in our martial art training. Or even in, I've been in a lot of training environments other than just martial arts training. And a lot of times that aspect is, I don't want to say disregarded, it's left out. And then when the situation arises where that emotion is involved, then people tend to, I want to say this gently, shit the bed with their training. So you either go way above what you were supposed to do or should do, or any reasonable person would do who's thinking clearly and not emotional, and then the person who leaves or doesn't do what they should do or fails to succeed as perceived by the martial art slash active shooter training instructor's perception. And that's because in the training, we don't use that at all. We don't discuss that. We don't go through that. We don't talk about that. And there are people who do. And I don't want to say we as in everyone. I want to say we as in most of us, including myself. And this is ironic. Up to about maybe 2 years ago, we started doing it at my school, and we found better and better ways to do that aspect. And so we have an adjacent program. We have RIMA, Rice International Martial Arts Training, which is your Kali, your Wing Chun, your Silat, Muay Thai, grappling, Jeet Kune Do, if you have to put that label on it. We have that RIMA training, and we have something over here. It's called Off the X, or OTXI, Off the X Institute, and the two are adjacent because one covers all this stuff, and I would say pretty well, and one covers this other stuff and more, and the stuff that I'm talking about. I realize this video is going real long, but this is a video you have to sit and watch, and there's no action. I haven't done one of these in a long time, so bear with me. It's going to bear fruit. So you have a person who's highly skilled in martial arts, has an incident that makes him decide, I'd rather take a beating, maybe even be beat to death, because my family's going to get the life insurance, than I would be successful in defending myself because XYZ happened to me. And I can't share any details. I don't really have a lot of the intimate details anyway, but that alone in and of itself should generate some wheels turning in your head if you're thinking through this training. Martial arts training has a lot of tiers. Most of the tiers involved the physical act of fighting, training, whatever you want to call it. The point of contact is already, we call it rite of bang, right? So something I really felt compelled to share this today because I do have the time. When you do your training, and you say you own a school or you have a training group, you train in the park, whatever, it's going to be harder to do in that environment. Even in the school, you're going to select the student group that you're going to train with very carefully. You don't want anybody to get hurt emotionally or physically. And you're going to take the training, the physical tools. They already have all those. That'd be a prerequisite for them to come to that training. And then you're going to include something that brings about emotions or fear or an immediate need to act or react, and apply that in the school environment and see how that plays out. I can't really give you all the details of that because you're going to have to do that on your own. But what we do, what I have done, and my students, really what's happening with me is I don't really teach. So Bruce Lee had a saying, and he said, "The punches and kicks are tools to kill the ego." Wow. Okay. What does that mean? And I think what he means by that is pretty clear, but oftentimes you're not going to pay attention to that. So if Jeet Kune Do is Bruce Lee's art, and Bruce Lee says the punches and kicks are tools to kill the ego, and when you come to your school and you teach and train and whatever you're doing, sparring, whatever, you're throwing punches and kicks and elbows and knees and headbutts and eye gouges and sweeps, throws, strangles. Those are all tools to kill the ego. And you're not practicing not using them because of XYZ. That's what I can't get into. I can't tell you what that is. Then you're not teaching Jeet Kune Do. And people often ask me, do you teach Jeet Kune Do? Everything I teach is Jeet Kune Do. Well, on your schedule, it doesn't have a Jeet Kune Do class listed. Well, yes, because I understand Jeet Kune Do, and I don't have to label that. In fact, Bruce Lee said, if you own a book written, well, most of what's in it is written by Bruce Lee himself, in his own hand. Handwritten. He says, if people say Jeet Kune Do is different from this or from that, then let the name of Jeet Kune Do be wiped out forever. For that is what it is, just a name. Please don't fuss over it. So, my Sifu, Dan Inosanto, understands that. And now he recently was quoted of saying, I just don't teach that anymore. Let the other people do that. I understand why, and I know a lot of people, well, they just go see him for that. He's a close connection to Bruce Lee that's still alive. And that's true. But listen to what he says then if you're going to go to him. Stop saying, well, that's just Dan. No, he's understanding it. So as I understand it, if punches and kicks are just tools to kill the ego, and striking, knife fighting, fencing, sparring, boxing, wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu, whatever you want to call it, is just, these are tools, then and you're going to your school and that's all you do. And I'm not saying that you don't stretch and do rolls and all that shit too, but you're missing the point, I believe, when you're just punching in elbows and doing pad drills and sparring and all that stuff. You are not understanding everything that happens up to the point where a punch is thrown. You're not doing any of that. Well, what amount of your life is throwing punches and kicks at people? If it's 10%, bro, you're probably a professional fighter, I suppose. And professional fighter might only have 10% of his life actually being fighting in the ring. Maybe less than that even. So now, I know I'm digressing, but I had to do that too to get to this point. So when I'm training in my school, and we created an environment, a microcosm, an environment where emotions can live there in that environment. And we train in that, and it requires a high degree of skill, a high degree of control to execute. Now, I can take a person with no training and put them in that environment, and they will be able to train to a degree. The other ones that I work with there, they might not be a black belt, but they have tools already. And I put them in a situation where they have to go through the process. And what I found is sometimes the ones with the most tools don't process very well. And so I'm kind of on shaky ground here when I discuss this. I participated in some training a few weeks back with professionals, which is called AST training. And I saw a lot of different things happen to people when there was some emotion involved. And everyone knew it's just training. But everyone, almost everyone to a man, had a reaction to that they didn't expect. Fear, some of them, different kinds of things that you wouldn't expect in that environment with professionals who know what is about to happen. And maybe 10 people just went through it in front of them and they were in the next room adjacent. So now when you're doing your training in your school and you're doing your tools to kill the ego 99% of the time, and the other percent, maybe it's 90%, and the other percent you're stretching and doing flips and that kind of stuff. Where's the other stuff that's going to make you successful or unsuccessful? And I'm sitting here talking to you from the position I'm in now, and I was in a different position 10 years ago and 5 years ago. I wouldn't have agreed with me right now 10 years ago, maybe even 5. But there's a process, and I'm at this place now, and I want to share this with you. And this is free. You're not even paying for this. I know many of you turned this off. You know, this is 17 minutes in. You turned it off 16 minutes and 35 seconds ago because it was just talking. There's no one getting punched. There's no tools being displayed. But I'm saying this to my students, and hopefully you're going to watch this. And I mean by my students, the guys in Finland, the guys in Azerbaijan, the people, you know, around the world that have trained with me in the past, and guys in Ohio, and the guys in South Texas, and the guys in East Texas, and the people in California, and the people in Washington, and the people around the country, and in Singapore. I think I've got a guy down there too. So wherever you're at and you trained with me, listen to what I'm saying now. It's going to sound abstract. If you can understand it, then put it into play with your students. If you can't understand it, well, reach out. I'm teaching all this stuff to a student that remembers forever, and hopefully will pass it. And I'm teaching it to a group of my students, and you know who you are. But the emotional aspect of the training has to be instituted. Off the X Institute, we are putting that training in. In the REMA class, well, Jorge and Joel and Dwight and Doug and Greg, Izzy, you guys are teaching that now. So I'm teaching the other thing. I still come and teach some of that with you, but you guys are teaching that for a reason. You're better at that than I am now. And I am appreciative of that fact because you're enabling the REMA side to stay productive so that they can pass to the next area with tools. You got to have the tools. You've got to have the base training. Maybe not to black belt, maybe to green belt, or maybe just to, you know, a certain level. Everybody's different. I have students that are brand new that are pretty damn good, and they've only been there a few lessons. Everybody's different. But especially if you have a base set of tools to enter this other training so that you can I call it relative certainty. It's called a level 11 in our structure of 12 levels. Relative certainty means I'm pretty sure if you take a punch at me right now, that I'm going to smoke you, and 3 of you or 4. You approach me with intent. The physical tools are not a problem, even at my age. And you're such and such doing this and that. That's not going to help you. That's my mindset. And I've developed those tools to a high degree. And just because I'm older doesn't mean that all the structural stuff still works. Most of it. So that's the video. I know it's kind of vague, but it has to be for this thing. Now, for you OTX people who are already members, the next training camp is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun for you and good. Those of you that are in the Thursday night class, you're the pioneers. So, hola.